YouTube, what is up? James MTG Biggie here, and today I thought I would talk a little bit about Dominaria, specifically a deck tech involving some Dominaria cards. I know everybody is expecting Standard to be the first deck tech that we make, but we're not going to go that route. We're going to go straight into Modern, and that's because there is a card in Dominaria that I'm not sure is going to be good. But if we're going to do something with it, we're going to do it in Modern. So I formulated a list based on the card Mox Amber. Everybody expects this card to not really do much, to not live up to the namesake of Mox. Usually when you hear Mox in the name of a Magic card, it carries quite a bit of weight to it. And this one's very, very specific. Each time they print one of these, it gets more and more specific, more and more narrow of a use, less broken by nature. But the fact that it is a 0-mana artifact, and it can ramp your mana, means something. It has to be somewhere, somehow down the line through the history of Magic, playable or abusable one way or another. And the one way I thought to abuse it was to make a deck list for Modern that is an aggressive deck, and I'm calling it Legendary Weenies. Those who don't know, Mox Amber is a 0 casting cost artifact. It adds 1 mana of any color of a legendary creature or planeswalker you control. So I'm calling this deck Legendary Weenies. It is a mono-white deck. White Weenie, of course, is an archetype that pops up every now and then. Just aggressively costed white creatures that do stuff, usually. The mana base, very simple. We are on 18 planes, 2 Iganjo Castle, and then our 4 Mox Ambers. Then, the creature base is as follows. We want white 1-drops that are legendary. So, Isamaru, Hound of Khanda, is a 4 of. Kithian, Hero of Akros, is a 4 of. This is what enables the crazy turn 1 plays with Mox Amber in our opening hand. If we go Plains, Isamaru, or Kithian, plus Mox Amber, then we can either play a second one of these on turn 1, which 2-powered 1-drops on turn 1 is pretty insane. Or it allows us to jump on turn 2 to play a 3-drop. So, every creature in this deck is legendary, so keep that in mind. We have 3 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Good as an early legendary creature to enable the Mox Amber, but if you don't have Mox Amber in your opener, it makes Mox Amber cost 1 mana. So there is a little bit of give and pull with that. But I think Thalia is a good enough creature anyway. Obviously, the best white 2-drop of all time, maybe in contention with Stoneforge Mystic. Then we have, as our 2-drops, Anafenza Kintree Spirit and 8.5 Tails, a 2-2 split. Outside of our 1-drops, because we were limited to them, everything else is going to have a lot of 2-ofs, some 1-ofs. Because everything's legendary, and we want to kind of go wide and build a wide board, we can't have 4-ofs across the board because the legendary rule cancels out one of them, and one of them dies. So, we have 2 Anafenza, 2 8.5 Tails. That's the reason between 2 split. 8.5 Tails is interesting. I don't think it's incredible, but it can have some corner cases where you have some mana, and this helps you sink some mana in the late game to give a creature protection from white and make one of their dudes white and maybe push through damage. It also can save your guys from removal. It's just pretty mana intensive when we're trying to be super aggressive, but there are cases where that works. Then on to 3-drops, we're on 2 Brimaz, King of Oreskos. Brimaz is amazing. I love this card. I always want this card to be good. I think this is a good shell for it. Not only is it a 3/4 for 3, which is a pretty big body, it brings the guy along with it. It blocks a lot of things in the format. It's really hard to attack into a Brewmaz. If you're playing against Mono Red, and they have a Goblin Guide, and you just slam Brewmaz, they can't attack you ever. So, pretty solid. And then we have Big Thalia, Heretic Cathar. Because we are an aggressive deck and we're trying to outpace our opponents, making their creatures come in tapped is pretty solid. Also, their non-basic lands. So that's a good, solid body, and a good, first strike is really good when we're trying to attack through. An additional new card from Dominaria we have is Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle, which is a 4-drop, 3/1 white. And it's a 2/2 flyer, but whenever you cast a historic spell, you can return a creature card with the converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. So whenever we cast a dude, we can get a dude back. So in our early game, if we have to suicide some Isamarus or Kithians or Thalias early in the game, late in the game, we play this, and then every creature we play after this, we bring a guy back. So I thought it was a decent one of. I don't want a ton of 4-drops, although we have a handful. I want to keep the curve low, and this helps us have some reach and some staying power in games where we're getting grinded out by removal, or whatever the case may be. Then we are on a handful of 4-drops. Outside of that, we have 2 Linvala, Keeper of Silence. This is just an aggressive 4-drop. We could play this on turn 3 with Mox Amber, which is really good. If you'll excuse my computer here. Yeah, so Linvala, we could play on turn 3. It stops our opponents from activating abilities, and gives us a little bit of reach, and flying is pretty important too. Then we are on 2 Archangel Avacins, which is pretty awesome in this deck. It's been pretty sweet because of the fact that we have to have a creature die to flip it, and we're playing legendary creatures, like legendary 1-drops. We can legend rule out a 1-drop to flip our Avacyn. So if we have Isamaru in hand and 1 in play, we have Archangel Avacyn in play, we can just play the second Isamaru, sacrifice the first one, flip Archangel Avacyn, and blow up our opponent's board, which is pretty interesting. Then we're on 4 Path to Exiles, because it's a white deck. You gotta have removal somewhere or another. Path to Exile is one of the best removal spells in Modern, so that makes sense. Here are 4 Mox Ambers. There's no artwork out for them yet. These cards have been leaked, but not with the full artwork. So there's that. And then we have Planeswalkers, because Planeswalkers are now legendary. So in addition to the Kithians that become Gideon, we have a Gideon of the Trials, a Gideon ally of Zendikar, a Gideon Jura as our biggest Planeswalker, and then an Ajani Steadfast. Ajani actually putting counters on all of our guys is pretty solid. Can give us some reach or whatever. So we have a package of Planeswalkers. I thought about and contemplated playing Elspeth, Sun's Champion, in here, but it just turned out that a 6-drop's a little much to ask when we're playing so few lands, with just 22 and trying to be aggressive. 6-drops aren't really where you want to be. And then we have Day of Destiny as a 2-of. For those who don't know, accidentally clicked Thalia. Day of Destiny is a 4-mana legendary enchantment, so it triggers our legendary stuff, and it gives legendary creatures we control +2/+2. So if we accelerate one of these out on turn 3 through Mox Amber and buff up our Isamarus and Kithians early, we have 4/4 1-drops, 4/3 1-drops. Our Thalias become much bigger. They become 4/3s. It's just kind of exactly the card that you want in this deck. I didn't want to max out again because it's legendary, and also because it is a 4-drop. So it's we're gonna have to take a turn off in the mid game to play this. But I think it's very worth having a pair of. And then we have another new Dominaria card, Urza's Ruinous Blast. This card exiles all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. We don't have a single permanent that's not legendary, so this is a one-sided board wipe that blows up our entire opponent's board most of the time. It's rare, like, it doesn't kill their planeswalkers, but it'll kill every single creature most decks play. And I think this is absolutely worth having, and with Mox Amber, we can play this early on turn 4. Or Mox Amber will help us with the Thalia attacks on it. So it's going to be a 4 or 5 drop most of the time, and it's one-sided Wrath of God for matchups where we need that sort of thing. In addition to having access to Avacyn, this is just kind of filling out the sweeper role in our deck, and all the sweepers affect just our opponents, not us, which is kind of awesome and kind of a big incentive to play these cards together in this deck. So I thought that was pretty sweet and pretty interesting. Moving on to the sideboard. The sideboard is going to look a lot like your basic Death and Taxes board. Just a couple Mana Tithes. I've been playing this in Death and Taxes sideboard. It's actually been solid. Nobody sees Mana Tithe coming. I was able to catch a Damnation with a Mana Tithe recently. Pretty solid. We have 2 Surgicals just for problematic combo decks. For decks like Storm, stuff like that. Anything using the graveyard, it's worth having Surgicals. You don't board them in all the time, but there are matchups where they're absolutely key. Then we are on 4 Stony Silences, which turn off our Mox Ambers, but are good enough that I think we play them in the in Affinity matchups. There's not 5 here. My computer's just being slow. 2 Rest in Peace. This just handles Snapcaster decks, Tarmogoyf decks. Tarmogoyf can be hard to attack through with a bunch of white, like, small creatures. So anything that's abusing the graveyard in a long-term manner, like, we don't, like, Surgical's not good against Tarmogoyf, but Rest in Peace is. Then we have 2 more Ruinous Blast, just to fill out our full 4 of. Having sweepers in the sideboard is always solid, especially one-sided sweepers. And then we are on 3 Selfless Spirits, just as a way to work around opposing Wrath effects. And it also synergizes, of course, with Archangel Avacyn as well. So we can protect our guys. We can flip an Avacyn even easier if we board it in while protecting our team. And it just gives us a little bit more staying power again. So that is the deck. I think it has a chance to be a good deck. I think playing aggressively, it's going to feel kind of like the Humans deck in a way, where we're not using Aether Vial, mostly because I didn't want to turn off every permanent being legendary, and also with Aether Vial, it's a little bit slower, and our curve is kind of wider. We go up to 5 total. And Aether Vial's sweet spot is usually up to 3, maybe 4 in some cases, in like Death and Taxes or Merfolk or something like that. So we're off Aether Vial, and we're not playing green, so we aren't playing Collected Company. We're just accelerating with Mox Amber and just making it the most aggressive sort of deck we can, and playing legend after legend after legend. That's the deck, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. If there are any legendary creatures I missed out on, any adjustments you guys would make, any synergies I missed, any other Dominaria cards that fit into the gap, or fit into the list somewhere, or something you would trim or change or alter about the deck list, let me know down below. I definitely think this is a work in progress, and I think if this is not a good deck or a great deck, it'll be a playable deck and a fun deck to play. It looks like a lot of fun. I've played a couple games on Untap already, and it's been a blast. I got to do the dream of the turn 1 Isamaru, Mox Amber, Kithian into turn 2 like Brimaz, which was a pretty insane curve. Mox Amber allows you to do a lot of crazy, quick, aggressive things, which is where I think, excuse me, this card will find a home. So that's all I've got, guys. Comment down below. Also, follow me on Twitter at MTGBiggie, And subscribe if you haven't. And for all of those subscribed here, if I haven't asked this recently or before in the past, if you can all do me a favor, and if you haven't yet, click the bell down below. People have been having a hard time getting notified when videos go up across YouTube. So the bell is very important. You click that, then whenever I post a video, you'll get a notification, and it'll come up on your YouTube feed, and then you can watch it and tell me what you think on all my other stuff too. But that's all I've got, guys, and I look forward to hearing from you again very soon.